Well, it's been an exciting day here already.
Or what, in what way?
I started my morning with a heart attack.
Oh my gosh, really?
We have an office dog here. Max was digging around in my trash can, and I went to look at what he was going after. I look inside my trash can, and there's a little mouse hanging out in the bottom of the can.
Aww.
So like any good woman, I scream bloody murder and throw the can across the room.
You threw the can?
I threw the stinking can, which was really stupid because the mouse was trapped in the can. And I could have just taken him outside. Instead, I threw the can across the room, screamed, and the mouse skittered out right underneath my desk.
I hate to say this, but that's kind of a woman thing.
It's a total woman thing. Only a woman. Only a woman would go, and throw the garbage can. Like, he couldn't get out. He wasn't going to hurt me.
I don't even know how he got in there.
I don't either, honestly.
I mean, he must have just jumped off. Was it like below the thing?
It was under my desk. So he was probably on my desk and jumped in.
He probably rappelled down in there or something, you know? I mean, how did he get in that garbage can? Was there food in there?
Probably a granola bar wrapper.
Morsels and crumbs or whatever, yeah.
Oh, so, you know. Gosh. Didn't need that extra cup of coffee. I got it in a heart event instead.
Oh, man, that's crazy. Yeah. You know, I always felt really bad about killing mice, right? So there's, you know, because they look so cute. Especially if you trap them, you know, you kill them in those mouse traps. They're just so, you know, they have the little eyes.
Really
they're so sweet. But you know what? They're evil. And they are vermin.
There's rat poop all over my desk.
I told you about the one time when I saw the one, you know, there was one up against the other one in the office one time.
No.
There was two of them. One was trapped and dead, you know, and the other one was there looking at the other one. I'm like, oh, it was the mate. You know, I'm so sad. It was the husband or whatever, the wife. And I went up closer. It wasn't that. The other one was eating the other one's head.
Oh,
it was eating his head. I'm like, all right. These are vermin. They don't have any, you know,
animals.
They have no compunction about, you know, being nice or kind or anything. It's just like, we will eat anything, including our own kind.
That's disgusting.
So, you know, they're basically cannibals and they don't need to be.
Boy. All right then.
They don't mix with other people. On
that note, yeah, let's talk about IRAs. So welcome everybody to A Place of Possibility podcast. I'm Angela Wright.
And I'm Richard Del Monte. We're glad to have you here.
What are we talking about today?
We're talking about Roth IRAs. There's so many. Roth IRAs are, you know, kind of in an area where people don't really understand what the pros and cons are, when they should use them, when they're not, what the rules are. There's quite a bit of rules.
Yeah.
So we hope to be able to shed light on that and be able to help you understand what's going on so you know whether they're right for you or not. Good. And we'll talk a little bit about Roth conversions, things like that.
Good plan.
Okay?
Love it.
Do you remember Cliff Notes?
Who didn't use them?
We're dishing out lots of great takeaways for you and realize it might be helpful to provide you with our version of Cliff Notes, aka DMG's Know Your Possibilities Guide.
To access the tool, download it, and share it, just head on over to the show notes page on our website for this episode and have fun. Take notes, and if you have questions, getting in touch with us is super easy. Just send an email to info@aplaceofpossibility.com or call 925-736-6410.
Well done.
So first of all, the basics of Roth.
Good place to start.
What's the main reason you would use a Roth?
So that you can get tax-free income after the age of 59 and a half.
Right. And that's the real benefit because we see a lot of people often that have all their money in retirement plans, right? Mm-hmm. And not a lot of money in after-tax money.
Yeah.
So the downside is they need to get money for a car or to put a roof on. They got to take out $40,000, and then they have to take out the tax on top of it. So maybe they're taking out $60,000 or more just to be able to net 40, and that's just their whole life is going to be like that. Mm-hmm. And it's really tough. Yeah. So having money after tax is, you know, very beneficial.
Yeah, and as you're going into these plans, you know, in your younger years, if you're in the saving stage of life here, you know, when Richard Benster's retirement plans, he's talking about you're getting a tax deduction for putting your money into the plan. So anytime you get a deduction in the year you make a contribution to a retirement plan, that's fully taxable at ordinary income on the back end.
Right.
Anytime you put money into a plan not anytime, but if you put money into a Roth IRA, you don't get that tax deduction today. But everything you pull out, including all the earnings on your investments, is totally tax-free if you wait until you're 59 and a half.
Right.
That's huge.
It's huge. And so, you know, the question is, you might be able to save a little bit of tax now if you're a younger worker and you're maybe making, I don't know, 30 to 70,000, for example, in an early years of your career. Mm-hmm. You might think, oh, I'm saving tax. But the reality is the tax you're saving is pretty low compared to what it might be when you get older if you're financially successful.
Yeah, I mean, you might be in the average, 15% bracket at this
15,
point.
16,
federal,
20,
if you're making up to $70K.
Right.
Well, think about it this way. When you're retired, do you still want to be earning $70K a year?
No, trust me, you don't.
No, of course not. So you're almost always going to be in a higher tax bracket than you are at 25 when you're 65.
Right. So you give up the tax on 20% tax maybe at now, and in the end, maybe on the other end, when you're taking money out, you might be saving 50% tax potentially.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it really does. Right. So, okay, so let's talk about that. So basically you can get tax-free income. Can you just get tax-free income anytime from these things, or what are the rules?
After you're 59 and a half.
Okay.
And then there are some caveats.
Right.
For example, if you were to pass away, right? Do you want to talk about that now?
Well, you got to be in there for 5 years, right?
Yeah. You have to have the plan for 5 years.
So when you put money in, like on January 1st of 2021, you would be able to take the money out if you're 59 and a half on January 1st of 2025. And it's interesting because even if you put it on 12/31 of a year, they count it as if you put it in at the beginning of the year.
Oh, that's nice of them.
So on January,
help us that way.
Yeah, on January 1st, if you put it on 12/31 on January 1st, that's a year already.
Sweet.
And the same thing happens on the other end. If you go into the next year, it's all about calendar years with these counting. So you could actually only have the money in for 3 years and 2 days, but it counts for 5 years if you do it right. So that's
okay.
Kind of cool.
So I put my money into this thing. I have to keep it in there for at least 5 years and wait until I'm 59 and a half.
Right.
And then I can pull it. What if I'm 58 and I start saving and then I turn 59 and a half? Do I still have to wait until I'm 63 or whatever?
You do. To be able to get the earnings out. This is only about the earnings. The earnings are the part that's taxable, right? Because the amount you put in, you never deducted. That's not taxable. Mm-hmm. Right. So it's just about the earnings. So you have to have them in there for 5 years, right?
Okay.
So there's some other exceptions too, because not everybody can afford to wait until they are 59 and a half to take money out. Mm-hmm. So what are they?
Okay. So if you become permanently disabled.
Right. And that's really basically about qualifying for Social Security. That's kind of the test.
Yeah.
If you can qualify for long-term disability under Social Security, that qualifies. Or you get a letter from your doctor saying you're permanently disabled. Yeah. Those are the ways to do it. You can't just be like, oh, I have COVID, and I'm in sick, or I have a broken leg. No, that doesn't count.
Permanent disability.
It's got to be permanent, right?
Yeah.
Then what?
You can also take out up to $10,000 to purchase your first home, primary residence.
Right.
That's really nice. One time, young folks.
One time. So if you're a married couple, you can each do it. That's $20,000. You could also do it if you're taking a series of substantially equal payments, under 59 and a half. So there's a formula you have to take. But let's say, if you're 55 years old, maybe you have to take out something like 4% a year or something for until you turn 59 and a half, 5 years minimum, or 59 and a half, whatever one is.
This is the old 72T rule.
Yeah, 72T, exactly. Okay. And then you can avoid the penalty.
Yeah, this is really helpful because a lot of people who have work for government entities or like your PG&E utility types, they are able to retire out at 55.
Yep.
That's a lot of people's 30 years of service, but that's, 4.5 years before you can get at retirement plans without penalty. So if you can get yourself on a set systematic withdrawal, it's a great idea.
Yep, absolutely. It's one way to do it. The systematic withdrawals might be a little low for what you want, but it's something, right? What else?
Okay, so unreimbursed medical expenses up to 10% of your AGI you can use Roth money for. And I think, we're doing this in COVID year, this podcast, so this could be really helpful if there were any long haulers, hanging out in the ICU for COVID all that time.
Yep.
I think we're probably seeing higher medical expenses for many people this year.
Yep. So, but they have to be more than 10% of your income. So if you're paying medical insurance premiums after you've lost your job, so if you're on kind of a, what's that thing called, the COBRA, right? Mm-hmm. COBRA, and you're getting, you're paying for your health insurance after you've left your job, you can take money out of your Roth for that. That's pretty cool. Yeah. What else?
Okay, other things. If the IRS has levied you.
I did not know that.
Shockingly.
I did not know that. They're going to give you a break for basically screwing them.
I know, it's kind of funny. It's like, you screwed up, you owe us money, but you can take it out of your Roth. Just get us our money.
Yeah. First things first, right? They're like, we want to cover our bases and we want your money, so we'll make it easy for you. But that's a good one, actually. If you have that situation, I would probably think about doing that.
Yeah. It would depend on what kind of payment plan.
Yeah. Also, if you're a military, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, whatever, a reservist, and there's something called qualified reservist distributions. I don't know what that is, but that's an exception to the rule. And then what's the next one?
Okay, so disaster recovery. If you've been victim of, big fires here in California, hurricanes, any kind of like natural disaster that's been recognized by some government entity, generally you can.
That's right. You can get money
take
out.
Roth funds.
Or, and this is a big one, if you're taking the distribution to pay for qualified education expenses.
Ooh, can I do that for my kids?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Isn't
so this
that
is
amazing?
another place
it's like having a 529.
Yeah, it is. Another place I could stash money away.
Exactly.
To be honest, I'd rather have that for my retirement.
No, I know, for sure.
And this is actually, let's just sidebar on this, because a lot of parents will prioritize their children's education over their own retirement. We've talked about this in past episodes. This is another spot where if you're able to get Roth money in, most likely you're going to want to use it for your retirement. But I have seen, folks in their 20s who maybe want to go back to school and get a graduate degree, pull some Roth money and do it that way. Okay. And that's a possible option.
Yeah, right. Okay, so then there's a 10th one here that you're covering the cost of childbirth or adoption expenses, and you could take out up to $5,000 for that. That's nice. Most adoptions are way more than that, right?
Yeah, so is most childbirth. So
true.
I think my last cesarean was $72,000 is the hospital bill.
And if nothing else, what about the pain and suffering? There should be paid for that.
If only. Well, no one gets paid for that ever.
No, we don't care about that. You're women, right?
Just get back to work. You're fine.
The system is really something.
Okay, so now reminding everybody, your contributions can always come back out tax and penalty free.
Right, which is a big exception that people aren't really aware of. So explain that.
Yeah, so it's just all of the money that let's say you're maxing out your Roth, we'll talk about that amount. All of the money that you're putting into that Roth IRA, you can pull back out without any taxes or penalties. So it's really important that you track your Roth contributions. Don't expect, TD Ameritrade or wherever you're putting this to track that for you. You keep a spreadsheet or a document somewhere where every year you go and add how much you contributed to it. Right. So that you always know exactly what your basis is and you can pull that back out should you need to. Now we're listing these expenses and we're not encouraging you to pillage your retirement for these things, but you can't. It's a place you can go if you're, desperate for some money.
Right. The IRS says that the primary responsibility for monitoring your contributions is on you. And your conversions. Yeah. So, word to the wise.
Right. Okay.
But if you ever need money and you're young, for what kind of things would you want to take the money out for?
I think a first home purchase. If you need that $10K, like especially right now. Offers going way above asking, all cash. It's kind of a crazy market for real estate. I think you've got plenty of time if you're in your 20s, maybe early 30s, to pull that money out and then replace it for your retirement.
Right. We've had situations also where people they have like credit card debt and it's 22% interest or 30% interest, and you hate to take money out, the after-tax contributions for that, but if they made a mistake or they got into a jam and it's a one-time situation, you could certainly do that and pay off the debt.
Yeah, I just did a scenario for a client yesterday where almost exact, you must be thinking of her, almost exact number. She's got close to $30,000 in debt. She's got almost that much in Roth contributions. And I ran some scenarios that show, if she had just paid off the debt and left the Roth alone versus paying down or pulling the money from the Roth, paying the debt, and then immediately taking the debt payment and putting it back to the Roth every month.
Interesting.
Right? So she has to build her Roth back up. It's pretty much even. Like it's off by approximately 1% over a 30-year time horizon for her. She ends up the same. So why not get rid of that debt, release her from that emotional burden, and then start doing that. Now the caveat here is that the client is going to have to save because she is pillaging her retirement for this. That's her biggest retirement asset, and it's going to be critical that she takes that debt payment and saves.
Yep. I like the pillaging word. It's the second podcast you've used that. That's good.
I like that, yeah.
That's good, yeah.
Okay, can anyone just contribute to a Roth? Like, this sounds really good. I have a feeling the IRS has put some brakes on it.
Yeah, you've got to be working, first of all. You've got to be employed or self-employed.
You have to have earned income.
Or be a spouse of someone who's self-employed or employed. Mm-hmm. You have to have earned income, right? Or
is earned income like the interest I get off my trust fund?
No, it's from a job.
Okay.
You're basically paying, Social Security tax on it, essentially.
Sounds good.
Yeah, and then you have to be. I think you can do it now over 72. So there used to be a rule that says you can't contribute over 72. If you're working, you can keep doing it as long as you want anymore, which is good. So those are the rules. And but there are limits on how much you can make to be able to put it in. They don't want anybody wealthy to be able to get this advantage.
Of course not.
Tax-free income? No, we want you to pay tax.
No,
sure, right?
So if you're a married couple making over $198,000, the phase out starts at $198,000, and phase out means that you can contribute some, but not the full amount. And if you earn over $208,000 in 2021 as a married couple, you cannot contribute to a Roth IRA.
Right. So it's only $10,000.
The little window there where they just kind of shave off how much you can do.
Pretty tight. What if you're single?
Okay, if you're single, that phase out starts at $125,000, and if you make over $140,000, no Roth for you.
Okay. So that excludes a lot of people.
It sure does.
Especially in California. Right. Jinx.
Make it personal, you owe me a Coke or whatever.
In California, it's really tough in the Bay Area, right? So what if you can't contribute?
Oh, well, we got crafty and did some workarounds.
Sure.
So Richard mentioned the word earlier. It's called a Roth conversion or a backdoor Roth IRA contribution.
Right.
Tell the folks how this works.
Okay, so backdoor Roth is basically where you instead of putting money into the Roth, which you're prohibited from doing because of your income, you actually put it into a non-deductible IRA account. And then as soon as you put the money in, and the limits are, we didn't cover that.
Oh yeah, limits. Of course, there's limits to how much you can put in these things.
The limits,
so it's $6,000 if you're under the age of 55. 50, excuse me.
Yeah.
7 if you're over 50.
Right. So 6,000 to 7,000. And so if you put it, if you can put $6,000 or 7,000 into your non-deductible IRA, and then immediately, as soon as it's in there, like the next day, convert it to a Roth. So you think,
why are we allowed to do
what is the point? You can't put the money in directly, but you have to do the backdoor routine. It makes no sense. I don't know. But they recently, about, 4 or 5 years ago, everybody was kind of trying to figure out when can I do the conversion? And now we don't care. Do it the next day. We don't care. We don't care how you do it. It's fine. So I don't know what the difference is. I mean, they're allowing you to do it basically.
Yeah.
But there is one caveat.
Yeah.
Of course, there's always a gotcha, right?
Right.
You can't have any other IRA balances.
Yeah.
Because if you do have IRA balances and they've made money over time, which everybody has IRAs that made money, then they have, it's called the cream in the coffee rule. So if you stir cream into your coffee, how do you get it back out? You can't, right? The cream, it's already in there. It's all mixed in with everything else. So what they say is, if you put money into a non-deductible IRA and then you do a Roth conversion, they're going to take the basis of all your IRA accounts, and they're going to apply that to the amount you just put in, and you're going to have to pay some tax if you do a conversion. Okay. So it makes it really hard. It makes it a lot better if you don't have any IRAs at all, and then you do a conversion, there's no problem with doing it. Right?
Okay, let's talk this. So I'm a single woman who makes, let's say, $200,000 a year.
Right.
I'm 45 years old, and I want to make a Roth contribution, but I have a rollover IRA sitting in my Schwab account.
Right.
So I can't do this.
Well, you could, but you're going to pay some tax on them.
Because the IRS wants to see all those earnings get stirred in.
Right.
And they want their tax money on that conversion.
Right. So some percentage of the money you're converting.
You can't just have all these, the wealthy among us have all these IRAs sitting out there, hanging out. And then I'm like, just converting these little Roth contributions. It's not going to work.
You're going to aggregate
but
all of them.
But let's say, okay, so what can I do? I know
there's another angle, of course, right? We're full of angles here. This is a place of possibility, folks. We know all the angles, and we're always exploring to find more. So here's the angle on that.
Okay.
It is to roll the money, just don't have money in IRAs. And so you can do that by putting them into some other kind of a retirement vehicle. So, for example, your 401k at work.
So you're saying that this woman, this 45-year-old, could roll her IRA that she rolled from another old job. Right. That's where it came from, let's say. So she can roll that IRA into her current 401k at work, get it off the books, so to speak, and then go ahead and start her Roth.
Yeah, she has no IRA anymore. No problem.
Phenomenal.
No problem. Or if you're self-employed, you can open up a solo 401k or a company retirement plan of some kind for yourself. Future podcast alert. That's coming up soon.
That's a good one.
And then you could do it that way. 403b, if you have a 403b, you work at a hospital or some kind of government agency, or 457 plan. All those things will work because they're not IRAs.
Got it.
SEPs are IRAs.
Yeah.
Simple plans, simple IRAs, they're IRAs.
Yep.
And SARSEP, if you have
Who
that
has a
around.
SARSEP
They've been around. I have some people that have those. Those are IRAs as well. So you can't, and your employer might have that as a company retirement plan. You're kind of out of luck in that situation. Yeah. But most people have some other angle like that. Yeah. So that's a way to get around it. That's a way to get around that.
Wow.
Okay, let's talk about the
you know what we need to make people aware of, though, is that, we were talking about being able to pull your contributions back out of your Roth.
Yeah.
And that 5-year rule. You have to have the money in for 5 years. So what if I'm making little conversions like once a month over, a 10-year period? When does the 5-year rule start?
Good point. Well, like if you're making the regular annual contributions, it starts as we talked about on day one, that you've made your first contribution. Mm-hmm. But in the case of Roth conversions, every conversion has its own 5-year period. So
you better be good at Excel.
You got to have Excel. You got to be tracking these things, because otherwise you could end up getting taxed without even thinking about it. Yeah, that's an important one. So then let's talk about taking money out or making contributions into a 401k.
Ooh.
Roth.
Ooh,
401k,
what's this about?
though.
Okay, so some 401k plans have Roth provisions.
Right.
Which means that instead of pulling that money out of your salary, it's still a salary reduction.
Sure.
Instead of reducing your income by the amount you contribute to your 401k plan, there's no deduction at all, but all of this money comes back tax-free.
Right.
Which is super cool, because 401k contribution limits are so much higher than Roth IRA contribution
Yeah, right. They're $19,500 or $26,000 if you're over 50.
That's amazing.
So that's, instead of putting in $6,000 or $7,000 in your Roth 401k, you could do $19,500 or $26,000.
That's amazing.
A big number. And you could do both too. I mean, honestly, you could do them both.
Yeah,
right?
Get all that money back.
Now you're talking, you're over $30,000 a year into these Roth plans.
That's right.
Those add up fast.
Yeah.
So that's a good way. In addition, here's another one, which is really cool. So they have this. There's a rule about 401ks. We talked about this before, where you can actually put in more money than what you can even imagine. You can put in up to $37,000 or $38,000.
Why? I thought the max was $19,000.
It is, but there's like a weird little quirk, and there's always these little things, gotchas and gimmies, and
nobody knows about this.
I know, it's very. There was a recent Wall Street Journal article about this, but so basically, if you add in, you have to add up 3 different sources of income that go into 401k. So one of them is your own contributions from salary, which are $19,500 or $26,000. Mm-hmm. Then how much your employer puts in. They put a match in or some kind of contribution. Add those up. Whatever they add up to be, the difference between $57,000 and what those two totals add up to be, that's an amount you could put into after-tax contributions for yourself.
Oh, interesting. So let's say my employer is matching, 50 cents on the dollar.
Yeah.
So I've got my $19,500. I put in, let's say 18. We'll make the math easy. Okay. So I put in 18 for the year. My employer puts in 9. I'm up to 27.
Right.
You're telling me I could put an additional $20,000?
30. Up to $57,000.
Wow.
$30,000, not deductible, into an after-tax 401k contribution.
Not Roth.
Not Roth. But the cool thing is, as soon as you make that contribution, you can convert it into your Roth 401k, or you can, if your company allows, you can roll it out to your Roth IRA.
That's amazing.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Wow.
So you're talking about doing 26,000 if you're over 50, plus another 30, plus your 7,000. I mean, you're talking about jamming some money into Roth IRA
all
accounts.
of that back, all the earnings on that come back to you tax-free.
Oh my gosh, yeah, right.
I mean, this is it's hard to drive home the importance of tax-free income during retirement, and until you're there. And every time you want to, we're faced with our clients all the time who have only 401k money to pull out, and it's like, I want 40k. Well, you need to take 60k, and how it impacts your whole plan over time. It makes a huge difference.
I've thought often about just converting like all my retirement money 1 year and just wham, pay the tax and have Roth for the rest of my life. It's a big hit though.
Yeah, that's it.
And actually the numbers show you it takes about 20 years to break even on that.
Man,
but there are some situations when it doesn't, we'll talk about here in a minute.
Gosh, that's so awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So we talked about like how to get all this money into the Roths, logistically how to do this if you make too much money, how to do, go gangbusters on your 401k.
Right.
Then so the Roth is basically, it's a type of account. It's not an investment itself.
Right.
So then I have to turn around and choose some investments for this money. So how do I maximize the money that I'm putting into this Roth? Like what are some smart do's and don'ts?
Well, a lot of people would say you got to keep it really conservative. You don't want it to run out or anything because it's an important asset.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That's one school of thought, but what do you tell them?
I hate that thought because I want to maximize my growth in the account where I'm not going to pay any taxes on that growth, right? If I have an asset that's going to produce a 10% return, let's say, and one that's going to produce a 5% return, I'd rather pay the tax on the 5% than the 10%. Yeah. So I want to see assets that are going to make my Roth explode.
Right.
So what's that?
No, you're right. That's exactly right. And I think we agree on that. We tell people just swing for the fences when it comes to how your money's allocated in the Roth. Just go.
Sorry, I gotta have a COO moment here.
Yeah.
Depending on your own personal risk tolerance.
Right. That's true.
But it's a spot where you want to try to put your more aggressive assets. If you're going to hold them anyway, hold them in your Roth IRA.
Right. So you want to get the highest return you can get in there that you can stomach, that's consistent with your risk tolerance.
Mm-hmm.
And what would you tell an advisor who's got like the same allocation in their Roth?
We see this all the time. If you're DIYing this, you probably have, like all of your accounts, each are set up with their own little portfolio, and they're probably all the same. You're balanced, or you're, whatever,
Right.
60-40 portfolios. And I even see advisors doing this. They build the same portfolio in each of their clients' accounts. So a client has, a trust that's a brokerage account. It's taxable. They've got a rollover IRA from their job, and then they've got their Roth IRA. And they mirror the portfolio in each account.
Nice little cookie cutter portfolios.
I mean, that's cute and easy. It's easy and efficient. Well, it's efficient from a button pushing standpoint, not from a cost standpoint, to manage a portfolio that way. But it's not the most effective way to do it. You want those high earning assets in the accounts that you can get back tax free.
Right.
You want assets that aren't producing a lot of, interest and cap and like dividend in your trust account where you're getting taxed year over year. I mean, thinking about that it can make a huge impact.
Absolutely. And if you're young, you're in your 20s or 30s or even 40s, there's never been even a 20-year period when equities didn't outperform every other asset class ever in history. So you can pretty much bank on that if you just go with equities or as much as you can stand in equities, you're gonna do way better and have the most money when you get ready to retire.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Agreed.
That's a really good point. So it's not a place for the timid folks. Just, go as aggressive as you can. All right. So let's talk a little bit more about Roth conversions.
Okay.
When does it make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine if there's rollover IRA money out there, and you're going to be paying some taxes. If you're a high earner, you're not going to want to do that.
Right.
If you're already paying too much taxes, this is not a good idea for you.
Yeah, if you're already in a 37% tax bracket, soon to be 39, and you're going to plus state tax, in California it's 13. No, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
But if you're in a low bracket, now say you're retired and you just have, all you got is Social Security and a couple of pensions or whatever, something small, and you're not paying much tax, that makes a lot of sense to do a Roth conversion.
Yeah. Or maybe there's a year, let's say you're a woman, you had a baby, men get paternity leave too now. So you're on leave of some kind, maybe it's unpaid, and you take a big hit in one tax year.
Yeah.
Get strategic about that. If you know your income's going to be lower in 1 year, go ahead and do the conversion in that year.
Yep. So every situation is different, but you need to look at it and see if there's an advantage for you doing it right now. Another reason that you would want to do it is to avoid Medicare premiums going up in the future. A lot of people that are younger really don't understand that. People that are in retirement, a lot of them do, but it's almost too late because they already have these big IRA balances.
Yeah.
So you're in a situation where you have a big IRA, say you have $1 million IRA, for example. Then you have to start taking out RMDs, required minimum distributions, at age 72. And they start out on $1 million account at say $35,000. You might add that to other income that you have, and suddenly your income can get very quickly above $88,000, right? Well, $88,000 is the threshold for your Medicare premiums to go up once. And there's other thresholds in for future ones, but the Medicare premiums can go from $145 a month per person up to more than $400. And when you add in the Medicare Part D, which is the drug plan, it could be more than $500 a month. Yeah. So we want to avoid that if possible, and that means accelerating the distributions or the Roth conversions at younger ages and at lower income levels to take advantage of those thresholds. Yeah. Is that too complicated?
I don't think it is complicated, but I think the audience can wrap their brains around that.
Okay.
That again, having income that's coming out that's not adding to your tax is super important. Right. After age 65, that number 88 or whatever it becomes, with the cost of living adjustments.
Yeah. Well, a good example is that client you and I were both working on recently, where the husband had a terminal illness. He maybe had 5 or 6 years to live. Mm-hmm. And so right now they have $177,000 that they can make before Medicare premiums go up. But as soon as the husband dies, for the wife, it's going to go down to 88. Mm-hmm. And she's going to definitely be in higher Medicare
she's gotten used to living on that amount. That's what they live on now as a married couple.
Right. So she's going to be in a much higher Medicare premium tax level.
Yeah,
at some
and
point.
FYI, your expenses don't cut in half when your spouse dies.
No,
It doesn't work
no.
that way.
That's a good future podcast. Well, we're doing one right on that.
We will. Yep,
Yeah.
we're gonna have a whole show on the death of a spouse. So, or partner.
The unexpected death of a spouse.
Yeah.
So that's a really good example of when it would make sense to accelerate, or do Roth conversions early rather than later, so you can save money down the road. We've had some people that we've done over the years, and they've just done systematically a little bit of Roth conversion every year to use up that lower tax bracket amount. If they're in a 15% tax bracket, why would you not use it?
Yeah, or just folks, I've got younger clients in their 30s and 40s who are high earners, working in Silicon Valley that don't have rollover, they have no other IRA assets and they want to make these Roth contributions, but they can't.
Right.
So, they plunk their $500 a month into just a non-deductible IRA, and then every month it just gets converted to a Roth.
Yeah, right.
Anybody can do this.
Yeah. We run into people all the time because they have they have Social Security, which if on lower income levels is not taxable, and they get $27,000 or more, if they're older, in standard deduction. So they basically have no tax. So you got this IRA sitting there. Why would you not convert it at no tax?
Right.
Right. So there's just some opportunities. They're like, hello.
There's all kinds of cool strategies you can do with
Yep.
these. They're super complex. I think they scare a lot of people away because there are all these little asterisks on all the rules.
Well, that's where a good advisor can be a big help to people.
Yeah.
The DIY, you're kind of, you get what you pay for. It's like doing your own heart surgery. Sorry.
That's true. Yeah.
But it's some people they're very good at it.
Yeah.
So, anything else we need to cover on that topic?
On Roths, I don't think so. Give us a call if you have any questions about this or want us to calculate, how much you can convert in your Roth. It's a great way to get tax-free money. I think, watch out for other tax-free retirement or tax-free college income plans or ideas that might come your way.
Yep.
Like, let's say you want to do a Roth, but you make too much, and someone comes up to you and says, "Well, I could get you tax-free money in retirement using life insurance."
Oh, it's always in life
It's
insurance.
often sold as a replacement for Roth IRAs, but it is not a replacement for Roth IRAs. It's generally a horrible idea, and we don't recommend looking at them. So watch out for that. If you're in the tax-free income mindset, you will encounter that.
Yeah, the insurance salesmen have lots and lots of good names for their little, supplemental retirement plan.
Yeah,
so it's basically an insurance policy.
Yeah.
That you can take money out of. So
Exactly. Watch out.
So okay, well, thanks for listening and watching, and we appreciate your attendance. And
see you next time.
We look if you have other thoughts or ideas about the topics we should cover. We're all ears. We'd love to hear from you. info@delmontegroup.com.
Sounds good.
info@aplaceofpossibility.com. Either one will work actually.
Yeah. All right. Should we go see if we caught that mouse?
Oh my gosh, another mouse? Yeah, we got some
left
more
him in
mouse traps
there
out.
with some traps.
All right, take care, folks.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.